All right, to begin, this is Assignment 5, Implementing Effective Instructional Strategies. This is for ED554, and I am Mark Faschholz. To begin, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about implementing effective instructional strategies, and this presentation is designed to be given in front of our faculty and staff. And I'll go through this together, and I'll kind of go through and talk about the strategies and what I'm going to talk about in this presentation. To explain, in this presentation, or the purpose of this presentation is to explain about R.J. Marzano and his strategies, to explain some effective strategies and how teachers can use them in their classrooms, to develop pre-existing strategies that teachers may already be using in their classrooms, and then to establish the goal, obviously, of student achievement. For this project, I'm going to be talking about 4 out of the 9 strategies addressed in Marzano's text that I found to be extremely beneficial in a middle school setting. I currently teach 5th grade at a school of about 500 students, and we are a private parochial school that average about 20 students per classroom and 2 classes per grade level. The specific focus or grade level I would like to be sharing this presentation or information with would be somewhere around in the 4th, 5th, or 6th grade, to the teachers in the 4th, 5th, or 6th grade. The reason I would like to share this information with this particular level I will describe as I kind of go through and expound on Marzano's different strategies. First off, a little bit about R.J. Marzano. He is a leading researcher in education. He is a speaker, a trainer, an author, and basically a leader in school intervention. Throughout his research, he has effectively narrowed his research down to 9 effective strategies and to improve student achievement across all areas and all grade levels. The strategies that I will be discussing will be, I'll go ahead and get started. The first Marzano strategy is reinforcing effort and providing recognition. Ways to apply this in your classroom would be include stories in your classroom of people who have succeeded. Currently in the 5th grade room that I teach, we do have at least 3 stories that I know off the top of my head that discuss people who have succeeded or have overcome adversity. Having students keep daily or weekly logs of efforts and achievements, and then find ways to give personal recognition with either some kind of an award or compliments, and then pause, prompt, and praise. In any classroom, for any teacher, there should always be an attitude of striving to learn and not having the opportunity or thought of giving up. I would imagine that most people would think back to if you were to think back to your favorite teacher or childhood classroom memory, they would probably pick a teacher that made them feel successful or a moment that made them feel accomplished. I currently am a coach, so I always tell my players the same thing that I tell my students, and they have 2 things that they have control over, and that is their attitude and their effort. According to Marzano, research shows that although not all students realize the importance of effort, they can change their beliefs to emphasize effort. So the question for teachers and educators then is, how do you apply the strategy into your classroom? And Marzano shares a few ways of applying this. Like I said, either sharing these stories or people who have overcome or succeeded in attitude and effort, and definitely to reflect on periodically, and allowing students to track their progress are all ways that you can use this in your classroom. The second of Marzano's strategy that I'm going to discuss is going to be research in non-linguistic representation, or basically another way of saying just using visual aids or aspects in the classroom. Of course, ways to apply would be incorporating words or images, or the use of physical models and physical movement in the classroom. According to research, knowledge is stored in 2 forms, linguistic and visual, The more students use both forms in the classroom, the more opportunity they have to achieve. Obviously, it is important as a teacher to be able to deliver information across a variety of pedagogies. Students can then retain knowledge when visual information is presented to them through images and symbols. And in a world that is constantly flooded by visual images, it's important for teachers to apply, obviously, visual effort in their daily lessons. Putting up signs in your room that allow students to move or display information, constantly getting visual aids, whether it's up on a Promethean board or up on the wall, or somehow to get visual aids, hands-on things that they can actually use in the classroom are going to be key, beneficial for students who need that visual aspect or just the kinesthetic, the movement. Marzano's third strategy that I'm going to talk about is cooperative learning. This technique may already be used in your classroom during specific times, but I'm going to explain kind of a systematic approach to help share these benefits. According to Marzano, research shows that organizing students into cooperative groups yields a positive effect on overall learning. When applying cooperative learning strategies, keep groups small and do not overuse this strategy. Be systematic and consistent in your approach. The issue is that many teachers find out while dabbling with groups that some groups of students obviously just don't work out well with each other. This is why Marzano states to put groups together according to experience or maybe what the students are interested in. Groups of students should vary in size, and students should be given objectives to work on with each other. Obviously, some students tend to want to work more than others or on specific areas, and some students allow others to do sometimes more or most of the work. But this is not how to delegate. Show students how to group and how to work in a group, share responsibility, and appropriately use social skills. Individual and group accountability skills are very important for students to develop and to strive to obtain. Marzano's fourth strategy that I'm going to be discussing, like I said, there are 9, but I'm just going to be going over 4. The last strategy that I'm going to persuade teachers to implement on a daily basis is generating and testing hypotheses. Research shows that deductive approach, or using a general rule to make a prediction, to this strategy works best. This concept can be applied in almost any classroom and throughout many different topics. Students on a daily basis have their own ideas and concepts about what is being discussed in the classroom. In reading, at least in my class, teachers can always pause and ask students to predict what they think is going to happen next. In subjects like science, teachers can always ask what might happen if some factor maybe in an experiment were changed. Allowing students to develop their own hypotheses helps them develop a deeper level of thinking and maybe understand knowledge at hand and not at hand or at hand, and it allows them to dig deeper into their own thoughts and ideas. In all of these strategies, obviously being able to teach students that it's okay to learn from a mistake. I always try to tell my students, especially in science class, that if you tried something on an experiment and it didn't work or something went wrong, it's okay to be wrong. Most people end up learning from their mistakes, or at least for the most part I do, and I know other teachers and students do as well. In all of these strategies, it is important for teachers to effectively develop assessments for students to achieve their goals. One of these ways that you can achieve their goals, give them rubrics or give them feedback. They can obviously give you feedback, and all these ways can be essential to set up and develop progress in student achievement. Marzano is very knowledgeable, and the first to say that all these strategies are all just recommendations. It's not to say that you have to use every one of these strategies in every lesson. In fact, in his other article, he states that teachers should rely on their own knowledge of their students their subject matter and their situations to identify the most appropriate instructional strategies. So in conclusion, obviously it's crucial for educators not to focus purely on one or two of these different strategies, but to focus more upon student achievement as their goal. It is also important for teachers to realize that all of these strategies cannot be used effectively in every class on every lesson. And these strategies will work, obviously, when planned, and will work most of the time, but not every time. Teachers are some of the first people to say, or at least I'm one of the first ones to say, that sometimes if you plan out a lesson, it's not going to always work the way that you planned. But it is, however, essential for teachers and educators to have the goal in mind of always allowing or always striving for students to achieve in all that they do. It is essential that implementing effective strategies in the classroom is extremely important and crucial in developing the minds of today's youth.